Yinspired is dedicated to all the grandmothers and aunties whose voices weren't heard or listened to, created for the daughters. Aloha and welcome back to Yinspired, a podcast celebrating different perspectives in Chinese medicine and integrative medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Haunani Chong Drake, a clinical doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, a licensed acupuncturist in the United States, a cultural practitioner and steward, a mom, a dog mama, and a military spouse. I'm really excited to bring back Dr. Cacky Mellor. We kind of left on it felt like a cliffhanger for us in our conversation. And that's why we brought her back so quickly to do a part 2. So welcome back, Dr. Cacky.
Thank you. It is such a joy to get to continue the conversation and spend this time with you.
Thank you for making yourself so available and your excitement to continue this conversation too. It means a lot. I'm not sure if I said this in the first episode, but you and I often have lots of conversations like these. And so it feels really like a gift and a treat for you to be willing to record and share some of these existential, philosophical, healer, mystical conversations together. So thank you. I really do. I truly appreciate it. And I'm so happy you were able to make more time for us.
Yeah. It is my joy. And I'm so excited to get to connect with your community and to hear how these discussions and these ideas are landing with people. So I hope that we can take this conversation offline into the community in rich and nourishing ways.
Thank you. I'm sure some people will absolutely love that. And that's one of the reasons why I specifically chose Substack for Yinspired's home rather than a social media platform, because it's free to join, but without having to like sell your soul and all your information. And it's also a little more contained, unlike the wild internet, you know, that can be distracting in many ways. So I hope that those who are interested in continuing having conversations, asking you questions, asking us questions, they can go there and continue the engagement. And they can do it per episode too, which is kind of nice. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at Substack, but that's one of the things that I like too, is I often am talking to podcasts when I'm listening to them, even though I'm not part of their conversation. I feel like I'm in the room and I want to
Yeah.
ask questions, and I don't want to jump onto a social media group or have to jump on because I know I'll get distracted after that.
Yeah.
So to me, I found great pleasure in being able to ask questions to podcast hosts in more contained online spaces. And so I'm hoping that others will also feel that and appreciate it as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. I love that you started with that word, we'll see where things land, because I think that's where we left off, is right as we were wrapping up and after we stopped recording, we recognized and realized that we hadn't really even touched on one of our favorite topics to talk about, which is embodiment. And so this idea of landing has a very earthy tone to it, or at least for me, when I think of landing, I think of a plane landing and coming back to earth, right? Like, just feet on the ground or, plane on the ground. We made it, we landed, we're safe. And I think this idea of embodiment has become such a big concept or term. We hear it a lot, at least in the holistic health fields. If you're into the movement spaces, yoga, qigong, tai chi, you'll hear the term embodiment a lot. So I know that this is part of your specialty in many ways as a somatic practitioner. And so I'm curious from you, first, what is embodiment? How would you
Mm.
define that? And then we'll spiral from there, I guess.
Okay. Okay. That sounds great. It's such an interesting question because I think embodiment, like so many important concepts in holistic health and wellness, has become a bit of a buzzword and people are using it to mean a lot of different things. So I appreciate the opportunity to really define the terminology so we can have shared language around these things and also to be informed and responsible consumers. Like when we are looking at working with different practitioners and modalities, are they using the term in the way that I align with and that means something to me? Or do I need to ask some more questions and get curious? For me, embodiment is describing this complex, multifaceted continuum of lived experience for human beings with bodies. And I say it that way because my own definition of embodiment has evolved over the years. I, for a long time, thought that embodiment meant fully inhabiting my body. That if I wasn't fully present inside every single cell of my body, then I wasn't doing it right.
Where do you think that came from? What was influencing that definition at the time?
Wow. I think a lot of it is recovering perfectionist and seeing things in these kind of false binaries of I'm either doing it right or I'm doing it wrong, rather than seeing it as more of this fluid, dynamic experience that life and healing so often is. And so it really blew my mind when I was in my doctoral program at Pacifica. And one of the uh, challenges that I was having at the time was I was having a flare up of chronic pain. And I didn't want to be in my body. Like it was painful, it was uncomfortable, it didn't feel safe. Like I felt like my body was betraying me. Like I was like, I have done decades of healing work and I'm still dealing like what is wrong with me? Like why can't I figure this out? And one of the readings that we were doing was from Alan Fogel, The Psychophysiology of Self-Awareness. Sounds really really like a mouthful, but I found the text to be really empowering because one of the things that stood out to me was to experience disassociation, we have to have a body from which we're disassociating. So that's also a experience of embodiment and it's adaptive and it's brilliant and it's serving a purpose. Like the fact that we have the capacity to disassociate is so brilliant evolutionarily and it helps when we need to leave the intensity of our experience, it's for a reason. So rather than trying to override that or pathologize it or shame it or make it be something else, we have the opportunity to reframe and come into relationship, even with disassociation, through an embodied lens, honoring and getting curious about what is the body doing here? How can I befriend that process and support what my system is doing to protect me rather than fight against it?
When I hear the term embodiment, it's changed for me over the decade or years and decades as well. The word itself makes it sound like it means in your physical body. Like it has to do with something about being present with the physical body. But I love that definition that makes us remember that disassociation is part of that experience of even
Absolutely.
having a body. So it's
Yes.
not the antithesis of embodiment, which I think
Right.
would be really easy to jump to that conclusion,
Mhm.
but really includes it in the definition, almost, like, I think, therefore I am, right? Descartes, I have a body, and therefore part of being embodied is not just this physical experience, this material experience, but it's all of the experiences that include having a body. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so happy that you brought up Descartes, not because I like Descartes, but because it's such a valuable piece of mending this false binary in our culture. Because particularly in the U.S., that concept of I think, therefore I am, like the mind is superior and the most important thing, and we just happen to have a body that carries around this brilliant mind. has caused so much misunderstanding, to put it nicely, what a holistic approach to healing could be. Because I wrote a paper a few years ago about embodiment and repairing this mind body split that is such a part of Cartesian dualism. And you can't separate the mind from the body. Like, there's AI and all of this technology that's happening now, but at this point in time cannot exist in a way that you are conscious and thinking without a body. Your body can take many different forms, you can have many different experiences, but your brain and your body are inextricably intertwined. They are so connected. And when we're moving through our lives and we're having experiences, it's being processed in our system, both through our conscious mind and through all of this information that's coming from our body below our conscious awareness. And so when we're actually having a lived experience, we're having a combination of both of those things happening in a co-arising experience. It's not that one happens and then the other. They're constantly unfolding simultaneously and informing each other. So even when we're talking about embodiment, like your thinking mind is part of your embodied experience.
I think this is very much in alignment. Again, not surprising, but this is very much alignment with Chinese medicine thought. This is very in alignment with many of the Asian philosophies outside of China, even Ayurveda, yoga, Vedanta, and there's so many around the globe that also recognize this mind body integration. This really the only separation comes when we try to talk about it, right? The minute
Yes.
we begin to start putting words to it so that we can start to talk about it in community is when we create the separation. Because we're
Yes.
trying to categorize it and differentiate the meat suit from the non-meat suit experience. When I say meat suit, meaning the physical body,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so much of that also is cultural, because in the United States specifically, we are this or that. And like the way that we label and categorize things is adaptive attempt to understand things within contained way that simplifies them, where it's very easy to lose the nuance and the complexity when we're coming from that cultural lens. And it's very different from Japanese culture, for example, where you can be Taoist and Buddhist and multiple religions or multiple things at the same time. And that's not seen as contradictory or in conflict. It's just a larger lens for understanding what's going on, and the multiple truths that can be present for a person.
That's really powerful, the multiple truths. Because I think that's where a lot of the struggle or um, the entangled knots feel like they're coming from. You're only exposed to so many ways of thinking before the internet, right? It's coming through a book, it's coming through people who traveled, it was coming through people who, if you had access to books, if you had time and resource and finances to books, like you were really only exposed to the limits of people in your community traveling outside of that to bring in new ideas. And here we are at a day and a time when it's like literally every ounce of knowledge, of truth, of fact, and opinion that's ever been recorded, audio, video, or written is in the palm of our hands is like, to me, that's freeing. That makes me giddy and all excited that I understand why I'm here on this planet at this time. But I can also see how that is so dysregulating for our bodies
Yeah.
and our in our nervous systems and our brains that have been slowly evolving. And then also in everyone's personal lives, well, not personally, but the community, the family, down to the individual, that idea of having a container of connection and almost like a resonance and coherence because of a particular cultural container that it was in is now just exploded. It's like it's so much bigger and there's not the boundaries it used to have. And so it creates such almost like where am I? Like where are my feet? Where are my roots? Who am I? In a very fast and quick way that maybe our brains aren't prepared for evolutionarily. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. I mean, I have so many thoughts because I think that's so interesting thinking about how, from an evolutionary perspective, we're wired to be social creatures. We're wired to find community, to find folks who, not necessarily that we always disagree with, but that we connect with, and that we can feel like, oh, I have their back, they have mine. Like we have an understanding of each other. And for as powerful of an opportunity to foster connection, so much of technology and the internet and social media offer, the quality of that connection can be quite different than what our instinctual, ancient, evolutionary bodies are seeking. Like we're really seeking multiple people sitting around the campfire with us. And that longing shows up. I mean, I feel it in myself when I go on social media where you just I want that real, deep, meaningful connection. And it's so incredible that that desire is still living in us amidst all of this disconnection. And the fact that that longing is still there, that we're still reaching out, we're still seeking community, we're still looking for, where are my roots? Where do I belong? Going back to our conversation about attachment, like that shows the secure attachment at the base of our core of who we are. And everything else is kind of just layering over top of that. But we can peel back those layers and get back to that secure attachment so that we can build meaningful communities and experience the belonging that every single soul on this planet deserves to experience in a healthy, safe, and meaningful way.
I'm thinking of my own family. I love them dearly. I'm very lucky that I have the relationships that I do. And I've always been considered like the outsider of the family, if that makes sense. Like I just have always kind of seen things differently. I questioned a lot. And I'm lucky that I had parents who, instead of telling me, don't ask that question, it was kind of more open-ended, like, well, I'm sure you'll figure out one day. And so it kept the door open for me to continue that exploration and in these type of conversations of what does it mean to be human? What is this all about? Who am I? Why have a body? Why doesn't anyone else like sense and feel things when they're in nature? Or like all these things that feel so normal to me. But I know for me throughout my whole life, it's been a struggle for me to seek out community where I can be the most authentic. I can speak a language that feels authentic. I can express myself in all of my ways, from like being very geeky and researchy and wanting to be academic all the way to my goofy self or the adventurous self or the mystical self, right? And it's been a journey. It's still a journey. And I'm so grateful for the internet because I think if it weren't for the internet and being able to harness and tend to relationships that I meet as I travel around the globe. For you, for example, like you're all the way up there in Massachusetts, right? And I'm down
Mhm.
here in Virginia now. I have friends back in Michigan and California and Bahrain and Okinawa. I mean, we're all over the world now. And in some way, I have been able to like piecemeal together a community where I feel I have roots. We might not all have the same roots, but we all honor and support each other in recognizing that roots important. Our connection with earth's important, and how energy wants to move through us is all very different. We don't all think the same politically, we don't all think the same religiously, but there is a community of people that I've been able to piecemeal to have what I consider in my head that maybe secure attachment community slash chosen family. I call it soul
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And I wonder if from your training and your background, is am I just I guess I'm asking, like, am I just making that up to make myself feel good? Is that type of that chosen family, that pieced together family, we don't live together. We don't share fire together. We don't cook together. I wonder how that fits into this model of secure attachment or belonging and connection that we've been talking about. Like, do you think that that's as secure? I don't know if that's the right term, but do you think that is as secure as one where you're all in actual connection in sharing physical space?
Yeah. Such a beautiful and nuanced question. And I will say that it makes me really curious, Nani, about how thinking of your soul family, what that does inside of you right now. Like what happens in your body, in your heart, in your mind, just connecting with their energy, just thinking about them and naming them in this space.
I mean, I light up. It gives me breath. It makes me feel
Yeah.
open through the heart. It's like an exhale.
Yeah.
And at the same time, an inhale. It's both calming to my system, but also I feel energized at the same time.
Yeah, like invigorating.
Invigorating, yeah, yeah, I get giddy, like, that's the word I wanna use. I get giddy, I love talking with these people, you know? I get so excited to know
Yeah.
that they're part of my universe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your answer.
Interesting. So when we're talking about, like, our relationships and connection and attachment and embodiment, it really comes back to not necessarily focusing on a definition per se. And here comes my perfectionist, here's the good girl in me wanting to, like, make sure I'm doing it right. It's not
Yeah.
so much about getting it right. There's no such thing as getting it right. What the somatic experience, what the secure attachment, the mind body connection that we're talking about is each one of us has to really just become aware of those bodily sensations and begin to recognize, is that feeling, I hate using the word like good or bad, but more open versus constricted?
Yeah. Well, we have the opportunity to get curious. And one of the things that I often encourage in cultivating that curiosity is to suspend judgment and meaning making.
I love
So,
that. You said that last time too, and I loved it.
yeah. So, we have, particularly again, from a cultural perspective, we've been conditioned to label things as good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, pleasurable, painful. And there's an opportunity, if we can suspend those judgments, just to get curious about the sensation, the emotion, the memory that's coming up. And rather than trying to do it the right way or to change the meaning that someone has through like logic or reason or trying to like convince them or argue with them, it can be much more impactful to invite someone to get curious about their own experience and to support that organic nervous system process to unfold. And sometimes the meaning will shift on its own. And that's coming from the person, like that's coming from their system, their intelligence, their vitality. It lands in a very different way than me being like, well, you XYZ should feel this way. It's like, no, like they know, like on a visceral level, that that belief that they had before has shifted.
Yeah, yeah. What you said is listen to the sensations. So when you're saying, each person needs to feel their own sensations and get curious about the emotions or the memory, one of the things I've been chewing on for many years, and I think I've even brought this up to you in the past too, it frustrates me To read in articles and blogs, even to hear it on podcasts, when someone in the health and wellness space or anywhere, they will say a person needs to listen to their own body. And the reason why this irks me is because I have said this a gazillion times. And then several years ago, I had this like slap across the face moment as I was reading an article where I realized I don't believe that the person writing the article actually knows what it means to listen to oneself. And so then I had this huge aha moment, deep breath moment where I was thinking, how many times have I said that without putting that into context or meaning, or it's just too big. And so I've been asking myself this for many years now, just writing to myself and journaling, what does it mean to listen to the body? And I keep going in these circles because in the end, it always comes back to everyone's different, right? There's going to be an individual experience of this.
Yes, yes.
And it's such a hard place to start or to send someone that you don't necessarily know, because we don't necessarily know all the times the client we're working with, the patient we're working with, or the audience we're writing for, their relationship with their own body.
Right.
So to ask someone to just listen to their body it can be completely unhelpful. And at the same time, it's one of the most helpful things we can get to at some point.
Right. Yes.
So I've
Yes.
been really like in this struggle, this swirling mud puddle of this idea of listen to your body. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to chew on this a bit and some of your experience and exploration, because this is where you actually help people, but you can't just tell them to do that and have them understand what that means.
Right. Right. It is such a personal and intimate experience to recognize that you're in a body and that you are embodied, that you're alive on this planet, and what that means and looks like and feels like is constantly changing for all of us all the time. And so one of the things that I say constantly to folks is you are the expert in your lived experience. So I have expertise in a lot of different areas, and I will bring all of those tools and practices into this space to support our exploration together. And I'm trusting and empowering you to know what's going to be right for you. And if for any reason someone says, no, I don't want to do that, that doesn't feel right for me, that's weird, great. I'm going to celebrate their no. Because that's part of this listening to the body, is not overriding and forcing ourselves back into the body because that's what we think we should be doing, or not going along with a modality or a practice because it really helped so and so, so we feel like we we need to do it. And if we really quote unquote want to heal, slowing down and just starting to meet your system where it is in this moment and not trying to make it be anything else is a really powerful step. And if that means that in this moment you can access your pinky finger and you can really feel into what is it like to have this pinky finger, that is a wild experience.
I feel myself softening when you say that, because you know, the parts of me that have been the people pleaser and wanting to do things right is that you hear a definition or you read something in a book or a teacher, or some people are influenced by what's the new thing. And so you try to attain that thing. Subconsciously, this fix it mentality that I was growing up in that made me read a book and then try those things, go to a class and then do all those things. And at a certain point, you start getting too many definitions and techniques and treatment modalities all mixed in, and it's a lot. And it actually it did move me eventually towards a place. But retrospectively, I look back and I can't say I was embodied through that experience because I was turning over my agency to other people or these other definitions or these other philosophies
Right.
while I was staying outside of myself because it felt too uncomfortable to feel that discomfort.
Yes.
And I remember this moment. It was about 10 years into practicing yoga asana consistently, not like dabbling, but like 10 years of consistently practicing. I had already been sharing, I'd already been teaching. And this is very, I haven't shared this with a lot of people. It was about 10 years into that where I had the realization no matter how many amazing moments in community and in self and these healing moments and these growing moments and these self-realization moments I was benefiting, I was growing as a person, I was quote unquote on my healing path, but 10 years into it I realized it had been such a facade for me. The whole time I would show up to get on the mat or practice a meditation or whatever the practice was, all these things I was doing, I was always putting the pain, the suffering, the discomfort off to the side. That
Yeah.
disassociation, like you said. I
Yeah.
had my whole life, I had been so good at disassociating that pain and that discomfort to show up, to be a good student, to feel the energy, to let it flow through me, to shine and, like to really be present, but with only part of myself being present. And I remember 10 years in, like bawling, just bawling uncontrollably, recognizing the path has led me to this place where I either have the choice to stop doing that and to continue doing these practices with all of those parts of myself, especially the discomfort, or I can keep doing what I'm going to do and it's going to keep giving me the same results, which is when the practice is done, a few hours, a few days, a few weekends later, it's all back,
Right.
right? Like that, the retreat wore off, the class wore off,
Right.
the acupuncture wore off. And that was terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing and for your courage and authenticity to share so authentically. Gosh, there's so many profound aspects of what you just shared that align so perfectly with what we were talking about and trusting you are the expert of your own experience. There is this cultural phenomenon of if you aren't functioning optimally according to our hyper capitalist standards, that somehow you are broken, defective, like something needs to be fixed. I know I had my own version of that, and it can feel so isolating and lonely and compound already painful experiences with blame and shame and additional layers of like, well, course I'm not gonna bring the pain into this yoga practice that's supposed to be about my heat. Like, I'm supposed to be blissed out right now. Like, I don't want that pain anywhere near here. Like, that part of so many of these embodiment practices is the opportunity to expand our capacity so that we can be with both the pain and the bliss, that we have the room for all of our experience, right? Like and to have compassion in the process of that. So that if we do need to disassociate, if we do need to titrate the awareness of that pain, that we have the capacity and the agency and the tools for how to do that. I also I remember so vividly so many times that I've gone to both allopathic doctors as well as holistic practitioners. And uh, I felt like a passive participant in my own health, where I was looking for them as the expert to do the fixing. And it's this very mechanistic way that health is come to be approached, particularly in this insurance-based model that we're in. And it's decentering the person and the humanity in that process. Yeah, that I could go on, but,
No,
just
I would love for you to go on because I think that I mean, I'm there with you as a practitioner, I that is my practice. I was trained to be a fixer. That's what you go in a master's in a doctoral program. It fits the US medical model, even though it's a holistic base. I think a lot of people think that if you go to Chinese medicine school or an Ayurveda program in the US, like, absolutely, you're learning a different paradigm of medicine. You're learning different treatment modalities, and it's still swimming in the same waters of the US healthcare system, which the underlying assumption is someone's gonna come to you with a problem and you're gonna have an answer for them. The system makes you reach out and look for an answer outside of yourself. And I'm that person they're reaching out to. So many, like you, people are coming to you. You'll have the answer that I don't have. And so for me, it's a practice of staying very aware of keeping the person. You use the term the expert of their own lived experience. The thing I always tell myself and keep centered as best as I can is remembering they are the subject matter expert of their own body.
yes.
They are the subject matter expert of their own body. And that helps me remember I'm walking alongside them in this journey.
Yes.
Because no matter how much I've studied, no matter how much money I've thrown at education, I can't know what it's like to be in their bones and blood and meat suit with the energy that's running through them.
Yes.
And it's a hard practice.
Yeah, it's very humbling.
It's very humbling.
Yeah.
And we're not taught that. Even in a holistic program, it was still taught in a US based healthcare model, which is you're going to be the subject matter expert in this particular field. So people are going to come to you for answers. So have an answer for them. So to your point, what you were saying, like, I guess it's very humbling to say this, but also like letting others know, even if you go to seek out a holistic healthcare practitioner, in the United States, a lot of the models for sharing and teaching and educating are still based on that insurance-based model, even if it does have another paradigm. Kind of
Yes.
feels yucky to share that, but it's also the truth, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes hard to swim outside of the waters that you're swimming in, you know? Like, we're all breathing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So much of it, like this, it's very natural and human to want a definitive answer, right? Like we want something tangible and clear and direct and like unquestionable. And there's so little certainty in life. And part of what helps me to stay anchored in being humble and remembering that this person and they're on their own path. They have their own wisdom and intelligence in their system that is are the guiding force of that unfolding. I don't know what I don't know. And that's so humbling. When I first started like that mantra as a practice, it was so uncomfortable and I was just like I wanted to like crawl out of my skin. I was like, this just feels so out of control." And I still feel that way sometimes, but it's evolved because now it feels so liberating and freeing because it's true. Like even with all of my education, all of my studies, and I continue to do more education and more professional trainings because I love it and because I want to know more and I want to understand and I want to see things from different perspectives. But I can't possibly know everything. I just can't. Like no one can. And so it it's really refreshing when I can have a conversation with whether it's for my own health and seeking care, or when I'm working in team treatment, supporting a particular client or just directly with the client, to be able to say, I don't have all of the answers. I don't know necessarily what is going to work or not. And I am here with you. And I am happy and honored to get to walk alongside you while we try different things and see what happens. And we can keep trying things until we find something that works.
Yeah. And that's why it's called a practice. We're all practicing. It's not a
Yes.
perfection. You don't go to a medical perfectionist. You don't go to a dentist perfectionist. You get to go to a dentist practice. You go to a healthcare practitioner. Everyone's practicing. And if you're on the patient side and hadn't thought about that, like it can feel very destabilizing as a patient to recognize my healthcare practitioner might not have the answer I'm seeking. After all that money and training and CEUs, they don't have the answer. Like, who are they?
Yeah.
But it also brings it back to the human level of we are complex. Like you were saying at the beginning, we are complex beings. We aren't
Yes.
just these materialistic meat suits. We have energetic currents running through us. We have genetics at play that turn on and off based on our own personal choices, how our senses work, as well as nature. I'm going to get yoga geeky here for a second. So, like, there was a part of the Bhagavad Gita, and there was this moment where, towards the end, essentially, Krishna to Arjuna says, in short, I'm paraphrasing here, stop trying to control. Like, you have control of so little in your life, right?
Yes.
There's the environment, there are the stars, there are the
Yes.
planets, there's everyone else around you, there are the seasons, just like there's so little you have control over. What you can only control is this teeny, teeny, tiny sliver. And I remember as a people pleaser and wanting to do things right, that's part of control. Like if I can control the
Right.
situation, then I will feel more in my centered or more myself, which was all an illusion. But to remember, like all of us, the person with the highest IQ on the planet, the person with the most money on the planet, to the person with the lowest IQ and the least amount of money on the planet, all of us have so little control. We are so at the whims of this great mystery. The mystery that has a ton of patterns all around us, the magic, the intelligence, and we are all walking it together. We're all playing in it together. We're all getting constricted in it together, and then we're getting free in it together. It's just such a dynamic process. Yeah, I think we're all just trying to figure it out, and sometimes we narrow it down too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if we do, on the rare occasion, figure it out, all of those whims are going to change the very next moment.
Universal jokes on us, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So eh, it's an ever unfolding journey. We can fight the uncertainty and cling to whatever answer brings us comfort if that is what you need. Like, I'm not going to pathologize that or take that away from anybody. And I learned that didn't work for me. um and yeah, I have so much more access to my vitality being a part of the unfolding mystery, being in the flow. And I'm part of the Y12SR community, Yoga for 12-Step Recovery. And we have a version of the Serenity Prayer where instead of God or higher power, we say love. Love, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that has been such a powerful and resourcing companion for me since I was introduced to that version of the Serenity Prayer. Again, it's very humbling, and there is only this sliver of what is within our control. Yeah, and it takes a lot of wisdom and compassion to meet that moment.
That's a really beautiful version. That's been a really powerful mantra saying in my life too. Thank you so much for sharing that version. I know that that will resonate with a lot of people. I'm really glad you brought up and pointed out this idea that if a path should find you, if a map should find you and you get the map and you read it and it works for you, to also remember that that was in that moment and it will
Right.
change. Because
Right.
this is something I see a lot. I bet you see it too, is someone goes, "Yay, I found the map."
Yes.
Or this thing is working, this supplement's working, or this movement practice is, or this breath work is amazing, it's everything. And they think that's it. Like I found it. I'm back to feeling great. I'm quote unquote healed. And they keep doing that thing. And then life happens. And whether it's in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years, we need to
Yeah.
continue to adapt because maybe that map was only for that particular time of your life or that
Yes.
particular condition of your body. And so we have to be willing to adapt with how our body is naturally going to change with age, with the seasons. And that map doesn't necessarily work for you anymore. And the willingness to let go of that attachment or that fix in many
Right.
ways. I see this a lot in the health and wellness industry. You probably do too.
Yeah.
I see this a lot actually in the wellness industry of you found a thing and then you jump on the bandwagon of it for this idea of like for the rest of my life. But now we're just perpetuating that same mentality of not being fluid,
Right.
of not being open to the changing nature of our beings. And we might actually down the line, that thing that brought us so much joy and freedom and healing is now causing us our new pain
Right.
or
Yeah.
constriction.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of a couple of clients throughout the years where they're like, "Well, if I just meditate for 2 hours a day instead of 1 hour, like, then that's gonna be it. Then I'm gonna be able to figure out my life, and if I just do 20 minutes of breath work a day, that like, it becomes this checklist of I have to do all of these things in order to contain myself." And that can be necessary at times to support folks through especially particularly challenging transitional times. And my hope for folks is that we can build the capacity to be responsive and adaptive and curious and playful and to be able to live in a way that is flowing with life rather than resisting or having to hold really tightly to this like a rigid dogma of exactly what you have to do in order to go about your daily functioning. I'm thinking of the difference that I see and have experienced in myself of a cathartic release versus an integration.
Ooh, let's talk about those.
So, a cathartic release is what so many folks in the US are striving for. It's that quick fix, big release of energy, big shift. Everything just all of a sudden feels way better after, whether it's like you were talking about before, like going to that retreat or doing plant medicine, doing XYZ, fill in the blank, whatever it is, doing a really intense workout that it does create a state shift in the body. Absolutely. And it can be incredibly powerful and healing. However, if we don't integrate the wisdom, the healing, the state shift from that big cathartic release, then it can create a cycle where we just need more cathartic releases and bigger cathartic releases. And then it becomes like its own addictive
N
cycle.
Yeah, I see that. I see that
I
too.
yeah,
I wouldn't have used that term, but that's exactly what I'm seeing too, is like replace one addiction for another in the wellness industry, almost like it's a steam release or, like a pressure cooker, how it has that steam
yes.
valve that like releases.
Perfect metaphor for it. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's like relieve the steam. Oh, I feel so much better. Closes back up. That pressure builds, 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 builds. Oh, I need that release again, go to that retreat or that breathing practice or the, whatever it
Yes.
is for that person. I'm completely seeing that as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very it can be very useful. Again, like, I don't it's not a bad thing to have those cathartic releases. What I find more and more is I have folks coming to work with me to integrate what's coming up in those big cathartic releases so that it doesn't just have them feel better for a day or a week or a month, but that it it, it sinks into their cells in a way that informs their daily life moving forward, that doesn't have them dependent on having to go back for another cathartic release in order to experience a little bit of relief from whatever that suffering is that brought them to want that release.
Yeah. So it has long-term impact on their life when they
Yes.
go through the integration, when they
Yeah.
have an integration. And again, for everyone, I assume it's going to look different, right? Based on what comes up. Yeah.
Yes.
This really reminds me of plant medicine and ceremony when done with cultural stewardship in mind and an appropriate facilitation. And I'm hearing more and more people having the opportunity and access to sit in plant ceremony, but there's no integration. And I find
Yes.
that very challenging as someone
Yes.
who's adjacent in this wellness industry to know that these people are just making tons of money having these ceremonies with no support before and or after, which we know is some of the biggest work of where the aha moments happen is in the prep work
Yes.
and in the post work, like the big breathing practices as well,
Mhm.
like the transformational breathing practices. They all have different names now, but same. People think that they can just show up, do the breath work, and be done without integration before or after. Like it's
Right.
a process. And I think a lot of those nuances get left out of the wellness industry and with a lot of these holistic tools the preparation, the tool or experience, and then the integration. And it ends up just leading almost to last time I really loved how we were talking about the process over the product.
Yes.
Right? Like in this scenario, it continues to put this wellness product as the focus rather than the process. And so you're
Yeah.
just repeating capitalism's giant grip on all of us again of like,
Yeah.
if you keep coming to do this thing because you don't do the integration, then you're going to come back and I get to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. I have worked with lots of folks on integrating these big cathartic experiences, and it's amazing. Like medicine will come up in their body, like both the memories as well as like the visceral experience of particular poignant moments from a ceremony or from a EMDR session, whatever it is. And when we have this opportunity to really integrate it, we can drop in and slow it down and titrate the experience so that it actually can land and integrate into their body and in turn into their life. So it's not just like, wow, I had this really crazy vision. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what it means. But it gets to be like, okay, we're going to really take our time and notice how does your body respond to just this, like, this one little sliver of this larger experience, and really let the body have time to feel that, whether it's a surge of energy or a settling or whatever it is. Because it's so important to not skip past those things. And when we're having a big cathartic experience, our system just can't keep up in real time. So that integration is so, so, so important. Yeah, yeah. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. You know how some people get really fixated on like doing extreme things, and it's like
Yes,
they're looking for that next adrenaline hit. It's like I'm going to do
totally.
something bigger so I get that adrenaline hit. I see this in the wellness industry a lot.
Yes.
How
Yes.
we're like chasing that next blissful moment, or we're chasing that next huge sensation of prana or chi. We're chasing it as if it's like looking for an adrenaline hit, but
Yes.
instead it's for the bliss or the sensation of bliss or whatever the sensation is the person is chasing.
Yeah.
The throwing up, the not thinking, whatever it is for them, it shows up in so many ways. When you catch someone or you notice that someone is in that cycle, what are some ways that you mindfully approach that topic with someone?
Yeah. Well, I did that in my own journey for a long time. Particularly, you were talking about adrenaline rush. I was a wild adrenaline junkie for a long time. And that was a big part of how I had that release valve for my own trauma. I loved skydiving. I loved it. Went for my first birthday, the first time that I went, and I went, I don't know, like 8 or 10 times. And it became a thing where it was like every 6 months to a year, I had to do it to reset my system so that I could feel alive and present and functioning again. But I was becoming dependent on this really extreme thing. So I have so much compassion because I've been there. Like I know what that is like and how supportive that can feel to know that, oh, if I go do this extreme thing, I'm going to feel a little bit of relief and it's going to last for whatever short amount of time. And at least during that time, I'll feel alive. I'll be able to sleep better. I'll be able, whatever it is. So I think so much of what was helpful for me and what I try and offer to others is that psychoeducation piece of your system is going to have waves and settling always. We're not going to ever get to this place of like purely blissed out nirvana all the time. Like 99.99999% of us are not on that monastic path. Like that's just not where we are. And while we can aspire to walk, the homekeeper's version of that, we also have the privilege of living this full spectrum of human experience. And that's going to involve activation and charge and maybe discomfort and even pain and suffering. And it's also going to include relief and peace and bliss and everything in between. And so I often will have new clients that are like, I just need to get rid of my sympathetic charge and everything will be fine. It's like, well, if you get rid of your sympathetic charge, then you'll probably be in a coma. We need it. We just need it in right relationship with other aspects of our being. And I think that can be really helpful, particularly in inviting a shift around these cathartic release cycles of it's not a bad thing. It's actually really brilliant and wise and necessary for your system to have some organic highs and lows. And it can be uncomfortable. And I'm right here with you, and you don't have to do it alone. And we can support you in expanding your capacity to be with that discomfort rather than trying to push it away or skydive away from it, in my case.
Yeah, I when I hear you say that, I want to be very clear too that I think that we're all trying to do our best. Like, I'm not trying to bring shame into any of these conversations. I do these things myself still, right? Like, this is a practice being a human. And, but what I'm also, when I'm pointing out that I'm also seeing these same patterns outside of the wellness industry,
Yes.
then people come into the wellness industry seeking the
Yes.
different things, but they actually end up in their same patterns. I don't want anyone to
Yes.
feel shame. I don't want anyone to like, oh my gosh, like realize maybe you're doing that and just recognize like it happens. We're human, but to recognize our patterns and to recognize what we're actually seeking. What is the desire below the desire? What's the want underneath the want, right? Like what's that freedom underneath the freedom we're really seeking is what I hope I'm trying to actually bring attention to rather than shame or guilt for whatever holistic or a cathartic thing a person is doing because we all do it. Like you said,
Yes.
I think brings it really full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, this idea of dissociation.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just really need that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
a bad thing to be dissociated for a moment in time, but also to just recognize what we are chasing. What are we seeking? I remember for so long, I had a visual that once I started doing yoga and meditation, that my nervous system was supposed to be like a flat line. That's
Mhm.
that's equanimity, that
Yeah.
it would no longer have highs and lows, that it would just be a flat line until I caught myself saying that out loud, and I was like, "Wait a minute, a flat line is dead." Like, in medicine, a flat
Right.
line is
Yeah.
dead, and I had to reframe it and came back to yin and yang, recognizing the yang and the yin is like a sine wave, and really gave me so much more freedom to come back to myself as a person who has like, I love adventure and I love being silly and I the highs, and also so appreciate those times where it's like dead silent, stillness, black room. And it almost gave me more space to be fully myself, remembering that
Yes.
ups and downs were part of that embodiment rather than
Yes.
this idea of like this steady state that you never move from.
Yes. 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 All of your humanity is welcome.
I know for our time wise, I think it's important to wrap it up. How are you feeling with things right now? You feel,
Uh,
is there any piece of wisdom or insight that you want to leave us?
I just want to invite folks to tune into compassionate curiosity to whatever degree that that's available to them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. We said this last podcast, but if people are still interested in reaching out to you, maybe they didn't hear it or they didn't write it down, where is the best way that they could reach out to you?
Yeah. So you can reach out through my website, which is somaticreclamation.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at somatic reclamation.
I'll make sure to have people head your direction and they can ask questions via the episode on Substack as well. I already did the rapid fire with you, but I did come up
Yes.
with a few extra questions just for you. Are you game or do you have to go? You're excited?
Let's go. Let's go.
Who or what's challenging you these days?
Mm, I think the state of the world is challenging me. And it's been again taking me back to a lot of the fundamental mantras and tenets and practices that we've talked about across these two episodes of recognizing what is and is not in my control and how to tend to what I do have influence over.
I know. It's a interesting time to be alive, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Something not as serious. What was in your cup today?
Ooh, right now I have decaf, sweet vanilla coffee with some creatine and a little bit of, coconut milk creamer.
Do you have a scary or embarrassing moment working with a client?
It's kind of a quirky, funny thing, but with, uh, like, deep somatic processing, when we are dropping into the body and a parasympathetic state and like integrating, especially when there's been a lot of activation in the system, um, you'll notice all of these like involuntary bodily responses, hiccups and belly gurgles and burping. And that's something that I often will talk about with clients and they'll like notice and start to track in their own experience. And a few years ago, I had shared that with a client. And the next session, she came back and she's so excited. She was like, "Oh my God, Cacky, I was thinking about you yesterday because I burped." I was like, "Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me."
You're now associated with her gas release for the rest of your life.
Yep. It's an honor.
Oh, all the joys of working with people. Yeah. Oh, I love
Yes.
that. I love that. And the freedom and excitement behind it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
It's true. I think so many people are told not to be a certain way in their body, right? And there are those unavoidable natural urges in our body that are often suppressed. So that's awesome that you help to be part of that freeing journey. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Who or what inspires you right now or currently?
Gosh, I'm really inspired by poetry has been something that has been a huge source of nourishment and a reflection of shared humanity for me. Since I really fell in love with poetry probably when I was a little kid. But in particular, Andrea Gibson, who we talked about last podcast, Emily Dickinson, Walt Whitman. Yeah, folks who are talking about the embodied experience of being human through poetry. It's really cool to reread some of the poetry and particularly pay attention to that bodily sensorial experience.
Oh, that's so true. I need to start rereading poetry with focusing on the sensation, not just like the emotions that come up. That would be really that's exciting for me to think about. Do you write poetry?
I do sometimes. Yeah. I had a poem published in a Jungian journal a few years ago now called Mother River Grandmother Mountain. Yeah, I can send it to you.
I would love to add that to our show notes, and I wanna read it too.
Yeah,
Thank you. Oh, that's exciting.
thank you.
The final question, who or what has you excited about the future?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was thinking of my littles, my sister's kiddos in particular, and getting to see them learn and grow and flourish and see the world through their eyes. It's super, super exciting to me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Always such a joy.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share this episode with someone you know and love. Your support helps create positive ripples in our communities. You want to continue the conversation? Do you have questions for the guests or want to explore more? Please visit substack.com and look for us at the @ Yinspired. It's free to subscribe, and you'll receive every new episode plus access to transcripts, show notes, resources, and the opportunities to join the discussion. From my heart to yours, create a day you love. This podcast is for entertainment, education, and inspirational purposes only. Nothing in this podcast is diagnostic or direct medical advice and does not establish a practitioner-patient relationship. Seek care from a highly trained medical provider for your healthcare concerns.